that broken branch right in the middle of the screen? That branch fell across the street in that storm and landed on the other side of this bush. And normally this car would be in the ditch right there, and my wife's car would be here, and it landed right there, and it just crushed it. And the trunk, there was actually two trunks to it, so two came down. I don't know if it came down at the same time or what, but there were two trunks here, and my neighbor and I tried to lift it off of here, and it was too big to lift. A little bit more of the debris that hadn't been cleaned away, and these branches here landed on the other side of my truck without hitting it. There's still little pieces left on the ground. All the big stuff was picked up. Branches fell out of all of these oak trees. We threw them in a big pile right there. And this big oak tree lost a bunch of branches, and they fell back in this area. We barely got that hosta, and one of them was wedged in on this tree, but it wasn't all the way down to the ground. And then there was another one laying here, and my son and daughter and a friend of theirs came over here and cut it all up and cleaned it up so we could go on our vacation. The winds were so strong during the storm that I could not open the front door to film it because the rain was coming down so hard and almost horizontal, and I had to wait for the storm to pass to film it east of the backyard, because it was just too much wind and too much rain falling, and I couldn't keep the door open. I had to prop it open with my foot because of the wind, and if I took my foot off, it shut, and I couldn't film it, didn't want to film it through the windows. This has been a tough week. I don't want to live through too many more tough weeks like this. I pulled these onions. I had to write it down on a list because it gets complicated. I pulled these on the 18th of Tuesday. Today is Sunday, the 22nd of June. It's 151 onions here. I laid them out on this table, and on Wednesday they had thunderstorms, really bad ones. Now, we got our weather forecast from the usually wrong forecasters. There was a 50% chance of isolated thunderstorms. Well, the isolated were about 40 and 50 miles wide, and they marched across the country, and it centered on my garden, and all this got drowned. You can see where this cardboard's warped because I like laying them on cardboard when I have it. And so we put them all out here, and I came down here because I knew it would be a mess. All of these onions, the winds were so strong, all these onions were blown down here in a pile. All those onions were up against that. So I took and separated them, and you can see where they got wet, which you don't want it, really not good to happen. So I separated them all. And then on Thursday, another 50% chance of isolated thunderstorms, and it marched through where we live, knocked the top of a tree across the street from us, and it landed in my driveway behind my big pine yew bush tree shrub behind my mailbox. And if my wife's car had been there, it would have totaled it. So then, and the power went out within 3 minutes of the storm hitting. Then we drove, my wife came home from work. She had to go over to the main hospital to log out on the computers because the computers where she worked was bad. We went over there. We saw homes where large trees had fallen through the roof on the second story, all the way through the roof, and stopped at the first story. And we're without power. and my onions have got drowned again. So we came down here Thursday night because of a schedule change. She took a flex day Friday and we could come to the river. Well, without any power, without the ability to wash clothes for a vacation, no air conditioning in a tri-level house, all the heat's upstairs, so we came to the river. Under flashlight, we picked all these onions off of here, and they were everywhere from the winds and the storm. Put them in a big blue tub and put them in the boathouse. And then we spent the night. Friday we got up. The cardboard had dried out. We put the onions back out again. It rained just a little bit, but not much. Then we had to go back to our home. The power came on. My neighbor told me the power had come on. About 5:15 Friday afternoon, so that meant it was out for 24 hours and 10 minutes by the clock on there inside the house. Now we'll go look at what the onions still in the ground look like.